Hello. If you're just joining us, you are joining the pre-production mode of the Xander Gibb Show, because that's what it says there. The Xander Gibb Show. That's me. And we are just, as I said, in pre-production mode, making sure all the streams are live. We are live on YouTube. Let's hope we are live on Facebook. Yes, we are indeed live on the Book of the Face. And we're just gonna get started, and we are gonna start the show. Oh yes, we have. Hi Janie, you're an early bird tonight. Let's get this volume set up and share the feed. Don't forget, guys, it gives you the option to find out when I go live. So click on that link so you will not be wondering. It's been a very interesting day today. I kind of avoided Boris Johnson's update on the coronavirus because I heard it was going to be more scaremongering, and apparently it was. And I just wonder when we're going to get back to a place of normality again. You know, I miss my routine. I miss going for lunch with my sister and you know, seeing the kids and, you know, keeping them in line and hugging them and just, I don't know, spending that quality time with them. Going for lunch with my sister. Yeah, I know you do, Xander. I was just saying the same thing myself. I really was. So yeah, I don't know about you, but I know things are beginning to get back to normal. People keep talking about this new normal. I don't want the new normal, thank you. I want what I had before all of this lunacy, before they told us everyone was going to die. And, you know, that's not being flippant towards those people who have, or know people that have. You know, I'm genuinely sorry about that. I just mean that we have been sold yet another lot of crap, really, to sum it up. And we're supposed to just kind of just accept it, really. I know that some states in the United States are kind of easing the lockdown a little. But it seems that the states that are not... Hi, Darcy. Welcome to the show. The states that are not, we're just in pre-production mode, so we're just going to get going and share the show. And if you could do the same too, that would be wonderful. So the states that are not coming out of lockdown seem to be the blue states. I wonder why. It is amazing to me that it's the blue states that are not coming out of lockdown and starting to get us back to this new normality. Or should that be normalcy? I'm not sure. But either way, I really don't want it. So I'm just sharing to Facebook pages. Please do that too. Hello, Martha. Welcome to the conversation. How is the world with you? How is the world with all of you guys? I hope you're doing good. And I hope our continued broadcast, because we go out 5 nights a week now, I hope it kind of makes some kind of difference to people's life and gives kind of some normality or normalcy, as some people are saying. I'm too flippant tonight, but I hope that kind of adds a little something for you to your week. Please keep in your prayers our president, because I feel it must be a huge struggle for him right now. And I know, although he has our support, well, I feel for you, Martha, living in Michigan. Isn't that where that Hitler woman lives? Gretchen Hitler, or whatever her name is. I know that's not really her last name, but that is, as apt as it gets. Yeah, so I would love for you to put your prayers out there for the president, because it must be very difficult trying to do the best for every American and being criticized not only by rhinos, Republicans that are Republicans in name only, but also by the left. Hi, Maria. Welcome to the live feed. So when the left is attacking him, you would think that, those of us that purport to be part of our throng would at least, give him some support. But I'm not seeing that. Yes, Gretch Twitmer. But I'm not seeing that happening. And I want to see it happening more, because the thing is, I think we've got a very good president and a very good representative for our needs and what is good for America in President Donald Trump. And I think that those who don't support him, why don't you just go and be a liberal? Because if you can't support him fully, then what is the point? I think it's very fair to say, that it's time to, show your full support. It is an election year. And I, as much as I want this to be what they call a landslide victory, I actually think we're going to have to work much harder for it than last time. I do think that a lot of the swing voters will be coming our way, and I think we will get more of the black vote. But I still think it's going to be hard to make sure that he wins, because there is much more working against him. There's the left, there's all the doubt they sow with the impeachment, with saying that he hasn't handled the coronavirus very well. But we all know that he actually has. He's done a great job with it. But I think a lot of these things were put in his place to hinder him, from day one, and then finding that all the PPE equipment wasn't there. I mean, I think that it was a deliberate act on the Obama administration's case to leave it that way, because it was another way to say, hey, well, if there is an emergency, that it's going to be problematic for the president to actually get it together. So I do believe that was deliberate. Yes, Darcy, prayers for Trump. God help us. We have Pritzner here in Illinois. Wow. Janie says, more so with all the cheating. Yeah. Oh, all of this mail-in voting is going to do is give them more opportunity to do so. But my philosophy is if you can go out and riot, if you can go out and stand next to people and throw bricks at horses and throw bricks at the police, then you can get your butt in line and stand next to someone else and vote, as far as I'm concerned. So, ultimately, it seems to me that in a way, that's the only good thing that's going to come out of all of this latest charade. Because, what's next? George Floyd, the musical. I'm sorry the guy died, but it's, there was the funeral today of Captain David Dorn. And there was a line of people around the block to pay tribute to him. And I looked at that line of people, and the line of people was so mixed: black, white, Asian, a little bit of everything. And I do feel that was testament to how much people thought about him. So you know, I despair when groups like Black Lives Matter don't bother. Hello, my Gina. When they don't bother to pay tribute to someone who served their community for 40 years as a police officer, and just won't and just won't give him any honor of or dignity in the situation. So you know, I despair really. So my thoughts go out to Captain Dorn's family today. Hello, chat. Hi, CV. CV is our guest in part 2. We are going to get started in a minute. Just going to share to this last page, and then I can carry on later. Oh, yes, Sari. Well, welcome to the show. We are gonna get started. I love this little ramble time at the beginning because what it does for me, it kind of gives me a little bit of an opportunity to tell you what's kind of bugging me. But let's do the opening titles. But yeah, really, please do pray for the president and send him all your good vibes. We're going to go into the opening titles in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I've been hurt to me this time around. Things were they were bound to change when it was found. Sugar never tasted sweeter on my lips. My heart is now intact, and I can find no rest. This is love, yeah, love. Never known true love before. Seen so many counterfeits that left me on the floor. This is love, yeah, love. All will come to those who wait. Time it cannot know the bounds, and era don't dictate.
Well, hello and welcome to today's edition of the Xander Gibb Show on the Xandermonium Network, live from an undisclosed location. The talk show that really does get you talking. I am Xander Gibb because, let's face it, who else would I be? Bringing you the best in Patriot broadcasting 5 nights a week. 5 nightly, quite rightly. On today's show, I get on my soapbox for a little bit and give you the chance to get on yours too in our phone in. I'll give you the numbers nearer the time. And on tonight's show, my guests include Julio Rivera, editor-in-chief from reactionarytimes.tv, and in part 2, CV Burton, co-host from Freedom on Deck, joins us to break down some of today's hottest topics. Now, you can have your show in the feed below, down there. Yep, down there. Down there. And I will be sharing your comments as we go along, so keep them cleanish. And also, you can call in when we get to the segment, and I'll give you the numbers when we are at that point. We also have a UK number now. You can follow me on social media and check me out at xandergibb.com. So HBO Max this week confirmed it was removing the 1939 epic Gone with the Wind over racist depictions, but said that the movie will return later with more context. Now, the original film will be brought back with a discussion of its historical context and denouncement of those very depictions. And a spokesperson for the service said in a statement, when will they be removing, that they will be removing the movies, I do beg your pardon, depicting black violence against women I'm sorry, the teleprompter just went into a brain freeze. When will they be removing all the videos of rappers on the black violence against women from the television? I hope that's going to be the next thing. We will all wait with bated breath. So a sick traveller who flew into Heathrow Airport from Switzerland this week said he was not informed about the UK's 14-day coronavirus quarantine rule on the day it came into force. Well, that's interesting. So the man said he was feeling unwell but planned to take the subway into central London. He said his symptoms were not related to COVID-19. And a local reporter, Martin Stew, posted the video of himself speaking to the man in Heathrow and asked if nobody told you that you have to stay in one place for 2 weeks. The man shook his head and said, no, I wasn't told this at all, and that you'll have to pay a fine of £1,000 if you don't do so. So what is happening, folks? You know, they talk about this quarantine. They talk about the fact that you have to be in quarantine for 14 days. In the United States, people are telling me that they have to go into quarantine after going from one state to another. So why are people not being told about what these rules are? Does anybody actually know what the rules are? I ask you. That was my little soapbox for today. If you want to get on your soapbox, go to xandergibb.com/contact. That's xandergibb.com/contact. And we will do our best to get you on the show so you can tell people what is on your mind. Oh, yes, sirree. Don't forget about our drinking game. Have a nip of whatever you please every time I say the words, oh, yes, sirree. Because apparently I say it quite often. So let's come to the live feed. New comments. Hello to Dave. Welcome. Going backwards. Julio and CV, this is bound to be fireworks. Absolutely. Tough act to follow. Oh, as in Julio Rivera. Yeah, you'll be fine though, I'm sure, CV. Janie says, where are you getting the thunderstorms? Not here, not yet. But I'm hoping that we don't. But I guess you mean in America. Chet says, now the mainstream media is claiming cops are spreading COVID-19. Oh, gosh, what next? Jamie says, it's just starting here in Ohio. I think she means the storms. Dave says, we had them roll through about an hour ago. I guess we're talking about the storms. Jamie says, we have a caller. Let's see who and what and why. If it connects. Hello, you're live on the Zen. Hello, you're live on the Xander Gibb Show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
It's the one and only Mr. Chet Martin harassing you on the daily call to Xander Gibb.
You are most welcome, sir. Sorry. It didn't say, it just said the number, and so normally your name comes up. So I was like, you know, who is this calling? Welcome.
I've been having better luck with the landline with these Skype.
Really?
So I figured why stop.
Yeah, so maybe it is something to do with cell phones in the New York area. Maybe it's that Cuomo. So. Maybe it's that Cuomo bitch spying on all of you over there in NYC.
It could be. He doesn't like us, that's for sure.
No, for sure. Well, he, certainly doesn't like the elderly, but we'll leave that conversation for another day. So you're just saying in the live feed about that cops are now being blamed for the spread of COVID-19. I'm just kind of like scratching my head to say, what the hell,
I heard this really quick when I was listening to Dana Lash today, and I guess there was a story out there that I'm going to look for a little later, and I'll send it your way, where now they're blaming the cops for the spread of COVID-19 to the Antifa and Black Lives Matter protesters. It's like you can't attack the police enough. You have to attack them some other way, which is absolutely out of left field, but leave it to the mainstream media
Right.
to do whatever they can to paint the cops as the bad guys.
Absolutely, but how do you restrain someone and also maintain social distance? Because the thing is, if we're supposed to be social distancing, that means you shouldn't be out rioting and protesting. And so, if maybe that's the way we get rid of them. Maybe we make sure maybe we just send the cops out that have COVID and make sure that they have such close contact. No, skip that. But that's a pretty good idea, I think.
You know, Xander, just real quick, I wanted to talk about Mr. Floyd's funeral. It was really disparaging to see the race pimp Al Sharpton show up.
Yeah.
And basically rile everybody up into a frenzy. The mainstream media talks about Colin Kaepernick's contract with the NFL during this guy's funeral. It was pathetic. You know, and everybody should take example when Al Sharpton's bringing up a worthless piece of you-know-what,
Yeah.
like Colin Kaepernick,
Yeah.
that Colin Kaepernick gets paid by Nike. Nike uses forced child labor to build their sneakers. Just so
Right.
everybody knows, Colin Kaepernick is not a stand-up individual. And I really thought it was a big mistake to let Al Sharpton speak there, honestly.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, it's interesting because there's been a lot of talk on social media lately about Colin Kaepernick because obviously he's getting on his soapbox again. Now, obviously, I know nothing about sports, but from what I'm told, that his game, I'm using sports speak now, which I can't believe, but, his game wasn't as good as it had been, and he wasn't to the standard of being a professional ball player, which really was the start of his claims of racism, but it was more to do with the fact that he was a crap player, not that he was black.
Well, yeah, that is basically what it was. I mean, I was a fan of football until they started to kneel for the flag, and I stopped.
Yeah.
And I haven't gone back ever since. But this guy just wasn't up to the task, and the bottom line was, if he could play like Tom Brady, somebody would have taken a chance on him despite the baggage that he carried around with him.
Yeah.
But because he wasn't up to par, and not even so much that, he didn't play like Brady, he just couldn't, he wasn't what he was.
No.
He had aged, he had lost his step,
Yeah.
and he wasn't able to play anymore. But Xander, he's making $10 million a year from Nike. Why are they bitching about this
Right.
guy?
Exactly. But I want to take you back to David Dorn because I don't want to lose attention from him because I know Black Lives Matter and John Boyega, who is the actor from Star Wars, he's a black British actor. I actually tweeted him today and said, how come you're concerned about black people that get killed by cops, but not black people that get killed by other black people? Silence from him. But this guy served his community for 40 years. Captain David Dorn, I'm talking about. And the turnout today was phenomenal. But no comment from any of these actors and all these celebrities that are talking about Black Lives Matter. So clearly, Black lives only matter when killed by whitey.
Yeah, only when it fits the political narrative. And like I said, Black Lives Matter isn't about black lives. It's about spreading propaganda in the mainstream media, and it's just a tool of the Hillary Clinton Foundation and
Right.
George Soros and Media Matters
Yeah.
and Occupy Democrats and Democrats, all those big groups, you can name them all, and they all pump money into Black Lives Matter, and then the Black Lives Matter goes into the black community, and then what happens is Antifa comes in the shroud standing in the darkness, and then they start to riot, and then Black Lives Matter makes it look like it's the black folks from that community that's destroying the community, when in fact it's the outside agitators that are paid to come in there in order to be, and all those TV networks own this. They all own this.
Right.
They all get paid by Clinton and the Democrats. They
Of course.
all own this.
Of
and
course.
They do this to the black community over and over again. And when are we going to finally say enough?
Well, I think that can be said also of the Floyd family, but I heard a disturbing fact today that all of the money that's pumped into Black Lives Matter is actually going straight into the DNC. And that worries me even more.
I believe it.
Surely that needs to be looked into because that in itself is dishonest and disingenuous. But what do we expect from the Democrats? But you know what, Chet? I'm going to fight so hard to get President Trump elected because there are so many that are fighting against him, and even some in our own throng who claim to be supporters, and we need to stamp them out and really just kind of get behind the president, because I think that we're screwed otherwise, you know?
Yeah, well, I told you something about our station, and I'm not going to say it here on the show. We'll talk about it later, but there's a lot of stuff going on right now that I don't like at our station,
right?
And it bothers me because, first of all, someone that got her show axed and probably shouldn't have, that happened, and then I'm hearing all this other stuff of just unscrupulous characters that will be at the studio. So I am worried that people just aren't taking these agitators serious enough, and maybe it's not being done in a way to hurt anybody, and it probably isn't. But the fact of the matter is, they take it seriously, and a lot of the folks on the right that aren't behind it 110% and constantly bitch and moan about Trump tweeting this, that, and the other, they don't see what's coming from the left. They still don't see it, and I don't know why they have blinders.
No, but you know what I think it is? Very last minute, but I think it's because they don't want to be called racist. But I don't care if people call me racist because I know that I'm not.
Right.
So that's simply what it is.
Racist anyways, Xander.
Yeah.
They'll call you racist if you wake up on the wrong side of the bed. You're racist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My black husband says different though, which obviously, as you know, is my standard response. We have to leave it there, chat. But thanks so much for calling in. You'll be back with us on Friday. I'm sure you'll be calling in tomorrow. Have a great night, and I will speak to you very soon.
Absolutely, and we want other people to call in.
We
guys.
do.
It's important.
We do.
Absolutely.
Might actually change the format and maybe have the call in at the end in the future, and so people are warmed up. So we'll see where we go with that. But thanks for calling in, chat. I will speak to you very soon, my brother. Thank you.
Care.
Bye. Bye. That was Chet Martin from Freedom on Deck. Martha says, "Go fund me. Mr. Floyd is over 13 million." Wow. Hi to Susan. Susan says, "Blacks driving around here shooting gun out of window with no plates." Wow. I really worry for NYC. Well, I worry for America. Full stop. I'm going to move on to our first section. The first cab off the rank tonight is a regular on the show, Julio Rivera, editor-in-chief of Reactionary Times. I caught up with him earlier to shoot the breeze and to put the world to rights. So welcome back to the show, Julio. How is the world with you?
The world is a crazy place. I mean, I'm not as crazy as the world is, but obviously there's still a lot of madness going on, especially in America.
Yeah, for sure. I'm guessing it got a bit crazy for you over the weekend, though, because didn't you have a birthday?
Yes, it did, and thank you for acknowledging that. I'm just another year older.
Yeah.
Another year wiser.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess. That's how I like to say it.
21 again, as my grandmother used to say.
Exactly, yes. 29 forever.
Yeah, for sure. No, well, I'm 35. That will do for me. I'm sticking at 35. On my last birthday, one of my friends said, "But weren't you 35 last year?" I'm like, "Yeah, and the year before, and the year before that." So we'll just keep it at you're 29 and I'm 35. So let's talk a little bit about that madness that is ensuing across the United States and also in some places in the rest of the world. Because the Los Angeles Police Department announced that homicides in the city have increased 250% over the previous week, and the number of people who were shot increased by 56% over the same period. Now, and increases in other states too, and blue cities, and blue states. Is it the shape of things to come? Or are we going to stop the namby-pamby liberal bullshit and get tough on those who break the rules?
Well, I think we definitely need to get tough on those who break the rules. We need to restore, civility. I think you do that by, the law and order measures that the president's been talking up. I mean, these liberal mayors and governors are really reveling, I think, in the madness that's going on right now in the streets of America. I think that the perception that the country is out of control, I think they believe will have a positive effect on them for the election. They think that they're going to get Trump out because of this. But the fact of the matter is, I think that they're losing moderates, at a record pace,
Right.
based on the fact that they're embracing all this defund the police, and we're going to replace it with community-based alternatives.
Please.
You think that drug dealers, do you think that the Bloods, the Crips, the Sinaloa cartel, the Vatos Locos, all the gangs
Right.
that are in Los Angeles right now, you think that they're going to sit there and start behaving themselves?
Absolutely.
If, the government comes up with more community-based alternatives to policing?
Yeah, it's like, who are you going to call? Definitely not Ghostbusters, but I think this, we talked about this on the show last night. I think there's been a bit of backtracking, because they're now saying that when they said defund the police, what they actually meant was certain areas of the police. Now, I don't know about you, but I already think that the police are underfunded, and in areas that they've reduced funding, there's been a significant increase in crime. I mean, do they not read statistics, or do they think that they don't matter for Democrats right now?
Well, the Democrats are not the party of facts and statistics. They're the party of emotions. So
Right.
They're probably not looking at it nearly as deeply as they should. But I think one element that's kind of underrated to all this is the power of the police unions. I think that, this cop in Minneapolis, the George Floyd police officer, had 18 incidents previously on his record.
Right.
I think that if you have that many incidents on your record, you should probably not be a police officer
For
anymore.
sure.
But I think that the power of the police unions kind of creates a protection racket for some of these terrible police officers. So I would call for an audit of the police forces, and they should reevaluate some of these police officers that are still drawing a check and still interacting with the public. Because, although I do not believe that, there's widespread police brutality, there's certainly not systematic racism in America or any of these things that the left says. There are some police officers, a small amount, mind you, but there are some that pose a threat to the general public. And those police officers should not be drawing a paycheck at taxpayer expense to go ahead and hurt people.
No, and I think good police officers would agree with you on that, because the bad cops get the good cops a bad name. And the concern of that is that, for people to actually interpret that as systemic racism is a form of discrimination in itself, because, they often cry, that black people are discriminated against and generalized about. And then we get this this generalization about the police too. I mean, surely that alone is a double standard.
Yeah, it most certainly is. But I mean, the one thing that may positively come out of this is that, again, when a problem presents itself, just like, the crime and punishment reform that came, we had the First Step Act comes out of it.
Yeah.
President Trump tried to fix things for the black community economically with the opportunity zones. Maybe these reforms that he's calling for, and he's asked for the help of Congress with this, maybe that will be the fix for this. Because listen, the president has only really been president for less than one term. I mean, really, and he's been hit with all these impeachment inquiries.
Yeah.
Now there's coronavirus. Now all these he's had so many distractions. But look at how much good he's done when given the opportunity to actually operate and try to fix some issues in America. So I think this is another issue that by the time the Trump presidency is over, he will have positively affected.
I don't disagree with you, and I was quoting for long enough that it was the lowest black unemployment rate since Eisenhower, but actually it's the lowest black unemployment rate ever. So how is this man a racist? Just with this and the First Step program too. But isn't it an easy kind of slur to throw when the left disagrees? You're a racist.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is something he's going to have to battle until January, I hope, from my lips to God's ears of 2025. Hopefully, he'll have the opportunity to fix all these things despite the naysaying of the left and despite the constant, ugly accusations. I mean, it's basically at this point is libelous slander that he's been dealing with really since June of 2015 when he first announced that he was going to run for president. This has been an ongoing onslaught. I think most of America isn't buying into the hype. Otherwise, he wouldn't have won in 2016. And as far the further left and the more radical that the Democrats become, the more that they're going to lose moderates, and the more that they're going to lose, common sense blacks and Hispanics in America. There was a poll that just recently was released that said that Trump is now seen favorably by about 40% of the black community. So despite all these, Molotov cocktails and all these verbal bombs that the left continually levies at President Trump, it doesn't really seem to hurt him.
No.
It seems like he's only getting strong in those communities.
Absolutely, and I think that will be really translated in the election and in November. But what I'm seeing on social media, as an influencer and someone that kind of takes notice of these things, I'm seeing more videos from black people and ethnic minorities saying that they're not buying this BS, and they see that they're being used again by the left, and that warms my heart because it just shows me that people are not as stupid as they're sometimes purported to be.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think that for far too long, I think the Democrats have been using the same sort of broken record politics. They just completely keep repeating the same message over and over again. And it's finally starting to fall on deaf ears, and people want a new message. It's like Trump said, what do you have to lose? And I think people are starting to, realize that, that things are better, going to be better in the black community in a lot of ways, exponentially better under President Donald Trump, and conservative policies over, in a blanket sense.
Absolutely, and thankfully so, because I do think that, this election in November, I thought the last one was an imperative election, but God, if the Democrats get back into office ever, if they're prepared to be this disingenuous and downright dishonest when they're not in power, this is what they're prepared to do to get it. What are they going to be like if they do get power?
Oh, it's going to be terrible. I mean, it's going to be like, secret deals with, rogue governments like we saw with the Iran nuclear deal. There's going to be, hundreds of pages of new regulations being put on the book by unelected bureaucrats that only benefit, the cronies and the people who are funding the campaigns of, leadership and the people that are currently in power. It's going to be pay to play, abusive politics. Basically what we saw for 8 years under Barack Obama. I mean, it didn't work for that time, and America was marginalized. We were in a very weak position when President Trump, inherited, quite frankly, a mess, as he likes to say. And he worked hard toward fixing that mess. So, I mean, why not let him finish the job of fixing it, and then let Americans decide, do they want the America that we had in December of 2016, or do they want the America that we'll get by December of 2024?
Absolutely. It really does come down to that at the end of the day, because I think that, ultimately, you cannot fix 8 years of misadministration in 3. It just doesn't equate.
Yeah. And his 3 years, again, with all the distractions and all the legal issues and then a worldwide global pandemic and everything he's had to deal with, he's really only had probably less than a year of unobstructed presidential time.
Exactly. I mean, imagine if they'd left him alone to get on with his job, because, I'm all for criticizing a president when they get it wrong. Let's let him get it wrong, and then we'll look at criticizing him then. But that's not the way the left works, unfortunately.
Exactly.
I want to move on to another topic because this week Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano has released a powerful letter to President Trump warning him that the current crises over the coronavirus pandemic and the George Floyd riots are a part of the eternal spiritual struggle between the forces of good and evil. Now, he encourages the president to continue the fight on behalf of what he calls the children of light. I've long said that this is a battle of powers and principalities, not flesh and blood. Is it as simple as good and evil between the left and the right in the United States of America right now?
I think it is, but I think there's shades of gray. I think that you have a lot of people who, due to sheer ignorance, they maybe don't pay attention to what's going on.
Right.
They don't really know the histories of the people who are in charge. They don't know, world history. They don't know the effects of communism and socialism and the destruction and death that it's caused over the past 100 years or so. So I think that what you wind up having, you have a lot of good people on the wrong side of the argument.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why elections are still very close in the United States. So let's face it, these Democrats have shown themselves to be evil, socialist, communist, baby killing.
Yeah.
They don't believe in God. They embrace evil institutions. It's a different Democrat Party. These are not, my dad's Democrats. These are not the old blue Democrats that maybe believed in unions and were fiscally conservative, but we're a little bit lighter on some of the other issues.
Yeah.
It's a whole different ballgame. We're operating right now in extremes. I think moderates are still the majority of the country, whether they're Republican moderates or Democratic moderates.
Right.
But it's just a matter of people making the decision that makes the most sense for them, whether it be economically, whether it be morally with like issues like abortion and whatnot.
Right.
I think that I don't want to cast everyone who's a Democrat as well, because I know a lot of people who are Democrats that are good people morally. And they're not, unabashed communists. But the definition of what a Democrat is in 2020 is far different than what a Democrat was even when I was growing up in 1990, 1995. It's a completely different ballgame now, Xander.
Absolutely. But I don't think that this letter from this bishop is to demonize every Democrat. I think it's more kind of approaching the leadership of the Democrats. Because the thing is that I believe in the power of everyone to evolve, because, everybody knows like 8 or 9 years ago, probably longer, 10 years ago, I was a Democrat, and I evolved politically, and I saw the BS of the left. And people often say, why do you still leave articles on your website that you wrote when you were a Democrat that actually say negative things about Republicans? And I answer them by saying, I think it's important to document your evolution so people can actually see that there is the potential for them to evolve too. So I think this is more about the leadership of the Democrats than actual Democrats per se.
Yeah, but the unfortunate part of that is they're only leadership because they're placed in that position by some of those people who, like I said, are misled, and unfortunately are not evil people themselves, but just are under the wrong impression of or underinformed.
Absolutely, but don't you think that is circular? Because I know that when I, even 25 years ago, when I was actively involved in the gay community, supposedly fighting for equality. I know how much brainwashing goes on there, and I know how much brainwashing goes on with the Democrats, because there's no freedom for having your own thoughts, and I don't want to be a member of any group or organization that tells me what to think. So we do have freedom of choice in that, I think, but far too many people kind of think that they're, you just mentioned your father was a Democrat, so was mine, but that doesn't mean that we should have become Democrats because we've made our own minds up about things. Therefore, they have that opportunity to do that too.
Amen. No, you're absolutely right. It's time for people to kind of look past the hype. And like I said, the Democrats are all about emotions. We're all about facts and statistics, and this is a time right now for truth, probably more than any time previously in our history, whether it comes to the coronavirus and the true mortality rate and everything that we've been force-fed by the left in regard to that. that's destroyed the economy and really ruined millions of people's lives in America.
Yeah.
That was due to emotion, the emotion of fear,
Yeah.
driving the decision making in lieu of really having good information and looking at what the facts were actually saying. So this is definitely, if nothing else, a time for truth.
Absolutely. And, I have to say very quickly, I've been very impressed as to how President Trump has dealt with this, because he's fought, I always feel like he's on my side. I always feel like he's fighting for the people. But he gets a daily, thumping for that from the media, from people on social media, everywhere, because it is a thankless task. But I think that he has a way of cutting through the lies. And it's funny how weeks and months later, like when he said he was being spied on by Barack Obama, everybody poo-pooed and laughed. But, he has this way of kind of identifying what the situation with. And then, when it does come to light that he's correct, nobody ever says, oh, you were right about that, Donald. It's just kind of left as, silly Donald Trump making accusations. But he has this kind of penchant for kind of assessment and arriving at the appropriate response, when others don't.
Exactly. It's like they say when a lot of people make the comparison between Barack Obama and President Trump. Would you rather hear eloquent lies, or would you rather hear brutal truth? And
Yeah.
That's what Donald Trump is. Unadulterated, 100% brutal truth. But that's what we need right now.
Yeah. But don't forget, he's homophobic, he's racist, he's anti-disabled, and he doesn't care about women. So we have to just get that in, for the sake of it, which makes me laugh. Do you ever ask for examples of these things? Because I do, and I'm still waiting for them, because they can make these assertions, but when it comes to examples, they've got none.
Yeah, and really the record ultimately will be his great vindicator. I think history will be much kinder to President Trump, and it may not happen immediately. But I think historians, when they look at things in perspective and they look at U.S.-Sino relations, they look at America's, previous dependence on countries that are, quite frankly, foreign or enemy combatants. I mean, you can make the argument that China's been attacking us for years, whether it be through cyber, whether it be through the theft of intellectual property, the massive trade imbalances, stealing away all of our industries from presidents who are weak. When history looks back at President Trump resetting the calculus for America, rebuilding the military, making the way of life and the American dream possible for people of color and women and all the, across all demographics, I think that history will be eventually very kind to him.
Absolutely. We have to leave it there, but tell people where they can find you.
They can find me on reactionarytimes.com. Go to reactionarytimes.com, and after you go there, bookmark it, and make sure you check reactionarytimes.com on a daily basis for all your news and political content.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. Julio Rivera, Editor-in-Chief from Reactionary Times. Xander, it is back to you in the studio. Thank you, Xander. That was Xander Gibb interviewing Julio Rivera from Reactionary Times TV earlier on today. Thanks to Julio. Check out his information on the Xander Gibb Show page for today. Now, my next guest is C.V. Burton, co-host from Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. See, Chet, I learned it. He's going to be calling us any second now. Wouldn't you like it just one of these times when you say, the person's going to be calling any second now, and it happens like just on that second. Thank you, Chet. Getting there, we really are. Here we go. This should be C.V. Burton calling us now from New York City. Welcome back to the show, CV. How is the world with you?
Pretty good, I guess.
Yeah, as good as
considering everything.
Yeah, as good as it's getting right now, especially in New York. I hear it's pretty warm there today.
Yeah, it gets humid. I don't like the humidity, but who does?
No, it makes my hair go all frizzy. Always a pleasure, buddy. Let's jump right in, because as ever, we are time-bound, if I can get the auto cue to work. So Antifa, domestic terrorists, took over a 6-square block section in Seattle, set up security watch, call for armed volunteers. Protesters poured into the building. A council member used the key, chanting for the mayor's removal for refusing to defund the police, and were met with a speaker from the Socialist Alternative Party, which I've never heard of until today. Sawant herself also spoke to the mob, calling her colleagues sellouts and corporate politicians. So in a press release last week, Sawant said that the mayor has repeatedly unleashed Seattle police to control protesters. Is it time for them to call in the National Guard and stop pussyfooting around? What say you?
Yes, definitely. I'm a strong believer in swift justice.
Right.
Because unless you have swift justice, what you're doing is encouraging more insurrection and more lawlessness.
Right. Yeah. And I think...
So,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and the discouragement of that is actually to the detriment of not just the police and the safety of the public, but also kind of getting any sort of law and order together for the future, because there's no deterrent.
Yeah. They're trying to provoke into some kind of action that they can point at. And, you know that's the only thing I think that might be holding him back. But he should, throw caution to the wind, because this is crossed the line, first of all. I mean, what they did in D.C., they're trying to... There are members of the DOJ who are trying to investigate Bill Barr over the choice of clearing the streets, after the curfew was reached, and as if that was a crime. That was not a crime.
No.
So it's everything's turned upside down, and they're trying to, like Julio said, I have to agree with him on this point, that they're trying to make it look like the society is falling apart, our country is crumbling, our nation is in chaos, and I've said that the catalyst that brought on the lockdown and the catalyst that brought on these riots are very suspicious,
right,
and almost insignificant compared to the reaction.
I would agree.
To the catalyst.
I would agree. I actually saw a video on Twitter, on Instagram today, and I'm going to have to copy it and share it, because it was of when they were putting George Floyd in the ambulance. That was a dummy that they were using, because the dummy had no legs, and it actually it closed in, and there were no legs on this torso. So it for me, it's like the plot thickens. If this guy has died, I don't believe anybody deserves to die when they're being arrested. But there's just too much. There's too much that doesn't add up about it all. And this double, have you seen this lookalike guy that he says is his brother? It could almost be him with a beard.
Well, even if it really did happen, which it probably did, we don't really even need to say, oh, well, maybe it was a false flag event, maybe they were all actors, maybe it was all this and that. We don't even have to say that, because basically it was just a couple of guys acting like a-holes,
Right.
So you don't have to castigate. I thought the left was all about don't stereotype. I thought they were all about not stereotyping. I thought it was all about not categorizing whole groups of people and demographics and everything. But for them to say that all the police in the entire world, in every country, is a racist now, because this one schmuck, here I am, I'm starting to yell again, because this one schmuck put his leg on somebody's neck until they suffocated.
Yeah.
So, who are the bigots here?
Exactly. This is exactly what I said in my interview with Julio earlier. The black community gets very offended when there is a generalization about and quite rightly so when people say, they're all thugs and criminals. But it's okay to do it to the police. And to suggest that we have a problem with systemic racism in the police force, I don't think that he did that because he was racist. I think he did that because he was an asshole. And that is different to racism. I just think the guy happened to be black. And if I say it, I see it. I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't like what happened to the guy in Long Island that was selling the Lucy's a couple of years ago, whose name escapes me. But was that because he was black?
I know what you're talking about.
Or was it because the cop was an asshole? I mean, for me, we have to separate the two, really. Because, God forbid, if I get into an altercation with a cop tomorrow for some reason, and I resist arrest, and they kill me, and, I end up dead, has it happened because I'm gay? Or has it happened because the cop is just an asshole that can't do his job properly? I mean, we have to dissect this further, I think.
Either way, if he did it because he thought he didn't like gay people, either way, it still adds up to one thing. He's an asshole. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to say what kind of an asshole is he. He's an asshole. We all agree on that. But what kind of an asshole? That's the one we have to get to the bottom of.
Absolutely.
You don't have to get to the bottom of that. Anybody who's a racist is an asshole. All right, put that aside.
Yeah.
But what I hate, the term that I hate really the most is systemic.
Yeah.
Systemic racism, systemic this, systemic that. Ever since Obama said, everybody's starting to say it now. Systemic. You want to talk about systems? Communism is a system. It's corrupt.
Yeah.
All right. Now I support all police. I support the institution of police. I
Me
support
too.
law enforcement. I support law and order. But you have to admit that some people who become police officers let their power go to their head.
Yeah, for sure.
And they act like assholes, and they throw their weight around. They like to be a big-headed authority figure, and they like to shout commands, sort of like Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah.
Who likes to sit there at his table and say, "Oh, I'm making a decree. There has been a snowstorm, so now I'm telling all the residents to not go out unless otherwise noted." And, he was like that with snowstorm.
Yeah.
Then he gets this pandemic, and now he thinks he's King Lear up on a throne, handing out dictates all over the place.
Do
But
you
people
think?
in power, they let their power go to their head.
Do you think that? Do you think that he was bullied in school? Because a lot of these kids that were bullied in school end up as dictators. So I wonder if that was the case with him. But I have to ask you a question about law and order. Special victims or not?
What's the question again?
Law and order. You talked about law and order. I said special victims or not.
I still don't understand the question. Law and order.
It's a joke, dude. If I have to explain it, it ain't funny. There's a TV
I
show
know.
called Law and Order: Special Victims. Anyway, moving swiftly on.
It might be that I'm not here. It might be that I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, I'm going to call the booker and tell him to book you with a sense of
I'll
humor
listen
next time.
later, and then I'll realize what it is.
Yeah, and you'll be like, "Did I really not get that?" So I wanna move on to the next. It really does. The next topic, which is also New York related. Twitter pricker. I was gonna say that would be. That would be more apt. That was very Freudian. Twitter briefly suspended the account of a major New York City police union on Monday for posting the arrest report of New York Mayor Bill de Blasio's daughter with her private data. So on the Sunday, the Sergeants Benevolent Association, the SBA, the second largest police union with the metropolis, tweeted a photograph of Chiara de Blasio, terrorist. Did you hear what I said? I'm going to say that again. Chiara de Blasio, terrorist, because if you're part of the Antifa, you are a terrorist. The report, and after she was taken into custody on Saturday night, together with different protesters for unlawful assembly, how can the NYPD protect the city? auto cue just died. How can the NYPD protect the city of New York from rioting anarchists when the mayor's object-throwing daughter is one of them? They captioned. They also said, now we know why he's forbidding mounted units to be mobilized and keep the NYPD from doing their jobs. Now, the screenshot of Blasio's address report included the private particulars resembling her tackle driver's license, IDs, etc. Now, according to Twitter's non-public data coverage that is referred to as doxing, sharing someone's private data online without their permission and is a breach of the social media big privatizedness act. So the account was suspended. The New York Times first reported and solely allowed to come back again online after it agreed to delete the tweet. So do you think they would have done that, first of all, if it had just been Joe Bloggs' daughter that had been arrested? Would Twitter have been so vehement about it, or is this them kind of sucking up to de Blasio?
Well, Twitter is a total politicized entity, an arm of the DNC. Jack Dorsey is a demonic-looking creature. He's a sicko. He shadow bans me. I don't even go on Twitter. I can't stand Twitter because their motto is, Twitter, it's what's happening. No, it's not what's happening. It's a fake. It's what they pretend is happening. They act like liberals are the majority and that conservative patriots are a little fringe group of deplorables or something. So I hate Twitter and we'll go on it. But, I do go on it, but, just to see what Trump is saying.
Yeah.
I might tweet at Lou Dobbs, who I love, and a few other people. But you know what you could do when you're on Twitter, by the way? You could block.
Yeah.
Everybody and anybody you want. If you see obnoxious people commenting on Trump's feed, block every single one of them.
That's exactly what I do.
They could shadow ban you, but guess what? You could shadow ban everybody else. If all the conservatives blocked every single a-hole on Twitter, I would really substantially reduce their power and influence, I think.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
Let's getting back to de Blasio's daughter. First of all, his name is not even de Blasio, so I don't see how his daughter could be called de Blasio.
Yeah, she'd be called...
I think his real name is Schwarzenhofer or
no,
something stupid.
It's Warren Wilhelm. So anytime I tweet to him, I call him Warren Wilhelm. And he doesn't like that at all. But it's tough, We will call him what we want to call him. But I think New York is under a bit of a curse right now because they've got not only... Sorry, let me just finish my comment. Not only have they got an asshole for a governor, they've also got an asshole for the mayor of New York City. So what hope in hell do they have?
I have ties here in New York. If I didn't, I'd be out of here. But
yeah,
I love it. I love the area. But I think Wilhelm is a Jewish name, if I'm not mistaken. My wife is Jewish, my kids are Jewish. I have nothing against Jewish, but he's a self-hating Jew. To go around pretending he's an Italian. No wonder Cuomo hates his guts, because Cuomo is a real Italian.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a real Italian. You're a fake Italian.
Yeah, I think
you're ashamed of your own name.
Yeah, I think de Blasio is his mother's name, but Wilhelm is German. It's not. I don't think it's Jewish.
Okay.
Definitely not.
These German Jews that have names that sound Germanish.
Yeah. Some of them do, for sure. But my other idea about this was, I wonder if she uses the Gracie Mansion address, or one of the Brooklyn addresses that his wife clearly obviously bought with the $850 million that she just lost, allegedly. I have to pop in allegedly because then they can't sue me. But would that not have been in the public domain anyway if her address was Gracie Mansion? Because everyone knows where the mayor, his official residence is in New York. It's Gracie Mansion.
Yeah, they're like Twitter saying, we don't dox anybody here. Oh, yeah, sure. Everybody on Twitter doxes everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're lefty doxing people, you're fine. You're A-okay.
Oh, of course. Of course. I used to live in 123 Fake Street, New York, by the way, because I'm going to share it on Twitter later.
Well, you know what? You're not in New York anymore, so now you don't care. But you know, it's the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. When you compare de Blasio's children to Donald Trump's children, there's a stark contrast there.
Yeah, worlds apart for sure. And you say about me not living in New York right now, here's the thing, that by the looks of it, there's going to be nothing to come back to if we don't get rid of these two jokers, messing up the whole city and state.
Yeah, you're not missing much right now, yeah.
No, oh God. I mean, the UK is bad enough during this lockdown and the pandemic and everything, but God, I couldn't survive in New York City right now. I really could not survive. And so my heart goes out to I'm a native New Yorker. My heart goes out to my fellow New Yorkers. And I really just pray that they get some kind of leadership there that will make a difference, or some intervention will come along. Because there is a kind of bid to get de Blasio gone. And if they can get him gone, then maybe they can get the governor gone too. Because it's not good enough to wait until to vote them out, because they could do a lot more damage in that time.
Yes. The thing about corruption is that it's very corrosive to the person who is corrupt. So, just keep it up, de Blasio, keep it up, Cuomo, keep it up, Democrats, Antifa, the whole lot of you. Because you're all, you know what, you're decaying, you're rotting, you're imploding.
Yeah.
You're collapsing upon yourself. Everybody's heated. You're naked Satanists as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And naked Satanists is where we have to leave it. I don't know what anyone's going to think if they tune in now and hear us talking about naked Satanists. So naked Satanists aside, Steve, you tell people where they can find you. The Church of Satan in Manhattan.
No.
Yeah.
You can find Freedom on Deck on your internet. If you pick up your cell phone or your computer or your PC, just type in freedomondeck.com, and that's where you can hear us every Sunday. You can hear the back shows, the archives, and you go to the news page. I keep that updated. I put all the latest important stories flowing on the news page now. It's like Matt Drudge used to be.
Right, absolutely. So go and check out Freedom on Deck and check out their show Sundays 3 till 5. And I will catch you again very soon, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, my brother.
Thanks a lot, Stevie. Take care. That was Stevie Burton, co-host from Freedom on Deck. Make sure you go and check them out. We are done. Thanks to everyone who's made today's show possible. Thanks to Julio Rivera from Reactionary Times TV and my good friend Stevie Burton from Freedom on Deck. Thanks to everybody in the live feed. Thanks to Chet for calling in. Yeah, that is where Hillary reports for her satanic rituals, the Downtown Church of Satan. But they've also got a Chappaqua branch too, so I'm told. Not Hydrophil of the Gibster, you can catch me 5 nights a week, 5 Pacific, 7 Central, 6 Eastern, 12, 1 in the UK, 12 in Australia the next day. On tomorrow's show, Cindy Groth and Stephen Schneider join us. Stay safe out there. I have been Xander Gibb, and I really do love you all. I do. Bye.
Life, it has been good to me this time around. Things were bound to change when it was found. Sugar never tasted sweeter on my lips. My heart is now intact, and I can find no rest. This is love, yeah, love. Never known true love before. Seen so many counterfeits that left me on the floor. This is
click the bell button and subscribe to keep up with the Xander Gibb Show. Oh, yes, sirree.
Again.